There is a universe where hope is not a rumor. It is a discipline. It is the quiet certainty that no matter how deep the night grows, someone is always watching from above the clouds. In this universe, Earth spins beneath the shadow of legends. A man in blue and red cuts across the sky faster than sound. A woman forged in the fire of forgotten gods walks among mortals. A silent guardian in a cape watches over a city that would otherwise devour itself. This is the DC universe. A place where the impossible is expected, and where the timeline itself has always been guarded by heroes who refuse to let the future fall. Threats have come from every direction imaginable. Alien warlords with fleets that swallow stars. Sorcerers who bargain with entities older than language. Cosmic tyrants who see planets the way children see marbles. And yet, through every invasion, every apocalypse, every whispered ending, the Justice League has held the line. The timeline has bent, cracked, even shattered, but it has always been rebuilt. Reality in this universe has always found its way home. Until now. It begins quietly, so quietly that no one notices at first. A historian in Metropolis opens a book she has read 100 times and finds a chapter she does not remember. A child in Gotham wakes from a dream that feels sharper than his waking life, describing a war that never happened. A museum in Central City displays an artifact that was never excavated. Small things, strange things, things easily dismissed. Then the changes grow bolder. Entire cities awaken with memories that never happened. Streets remember buildings that were never built. Families recall relatives who never existed. Historical events rewrite themselves overnight, and no one can say when the ink began to shift. Heroes stir from sleep with the weight of lives they never lived, pressing against their thoughts. Superman remembers a battle he never fought. Wonder Woman recalls a sister she never had. Batman remembers a night in an alley that ended differently, and the memory refuses to leave him. Something is wrong. Something is rewriting the world beneath their feet, and it is doing so with the patience of a master craftsman. At the center of the disturbance stands one man. He does not announce himself. He does not descend in fire or thunder. He arrives the way a shadow arrives, quietly and always after the light has already begun to fade. His armor is the color of storm clouds and old empires. His eyes carry the weight of centuries he has already conquered. His name is spoken in 1,000 futures and feared in 1,000 pasts. Kang the Conqueror. He has crossed realities the way lesser men cross rivers. He has ruled empires that spanned galaxies and outlived stars. He has hunted a temporal anomaly across the folds of existence, following its trail through timelines that fractured behind him. And now, at the end of that pursuit, he steps into a universe unlike any he has ever seen. A universe where gods walk beside mortals. A universe where a single man in a cape can move planets. A universe where hope is not naive. It is armed. For the first time in a long time, Kang pauses. He does not raise an army. He does not seize a throne. He does something far more dangerous. He begins to study. He walks unseen through centuries, tracing the arteries of history, learning where they pulse and where they bleed. He searches for the precise moment where a single adjustment can unmake an age. He is not looking for a battlefield. He is looking for a lever. The Justice League does not yet know they are under attack. They cannot know, because Kang has not touched a single city. He has not fired a single weapon. He has not spoken a single threat. His first battlefield is not Earth. It is time itself. And time, unlike Earth, has no protector. The world begins to unravel in ways that defy explanation. Not all at once, not with a scream, but with a slow, creeping wrongness that seeps into every corner of existence like water finding cracks in stone. In Star City, Green Arrow wakes to find a plaque in his own headquarters commemorating a mission he never completed. The date is precise. The photograph is real. His own face stares back at him from a moment he does not remember living. In Coast City, Hal Jordan receives a transmission from the Guardians of the Universe congratulating him on a victory in a sector he has never visited. In Atlantis, Aquaman finds ancient tablets carved with the names of kings who never sat upon his throne. Villains stir with the same confusion. The Joker laughs at a punchline no one told. Lex Luthor reviews footage of a plan he never enacted, yet the results are undeniable. Sinestro remembers a war he supposedly won, though the scars on his body tell a different story. Across the world, the powerful and the powerless alike are haunted by lives they did not live. Entire timelines flicker in and out of existence. A skyscraper stands for 3 days, then vanishes as though it had never been built. A river changes course overnight. A language once spoken by millions is suddenly forgotten by all but a handful of scholars who cannot explain how they still know it. The world is being rewritten, page by page, and no one can find the author. The Justice League gathers in the watchtower. The silence in the room is heavier than any threat they have faced. Superman speaks first, describing the memories that no longer feel like his own. Wonder Woman confirms that even the gods of Olympus are uncertain of their own histories. The Flash admits that the Speed Force itself is trembling, as though something upstream is disturbing the current of time. Batman listens. He always listens first. Then he begins to work. Alongside Mr. Terrific, one of the sharpest minds on the planet, Batman launches an investigation unlike any the League has undertaken. They do not chase a villain. They chase a pattern. They map every inconsistency, every rewritten memory, every vanished landmark. They lay the data across screens the size of walls, and they search for the shape hidden inside the chaos. And slowly a shape begins to appear. The changes are not random. They are surgical. Each alteration, no matter how small, subtly weakens a specific chain of events. A hero who fails to meet a mentor. A villain who escapes a formative defeat. A discovery delayed by a single week. Every change is a thread pulled from a tapestry, and the tapestry is beginning to sag. Someone is not attacking the present. Someone is attacking the foundations beneath it. While the League studies the wounds, Kang moves through the centuries like a gardener tending a hidden estate. He establishes strongholds in ages the heroes cannot easily reach. A fortress buried beneath the ice of a prehistoric world. A citadel hidden inside the ruins of a fallen future. A sanctum tucked into the folds of a forgotten Bronze Age kingdom. Each stronghold anchors his influence to a different era, ensuring that even if he is defeated in one century, his empire continues in another. He is not conquering territory. He is conquering history. By the time the Justice League begins to understand the true nature of the threat, the battlefield has already expanded beyond anything they have ever faced. It is not a city. It is not a continent. It is not even a planet. It is thousands of years stretching in every direction, folding back upon itself, filled with hidden armies waiting for a signal that only Kang can give. Superman clenches his fists and finds, for the first time in a long time, that strength alone will not be enough. Wonder Woman lowers her sword, understanding that valor cannot cut a wound in time. The Flash stares into the horizon of the Speed Force and feels something staring back. The war has already begun. They are simply the last to arrive. There is a particular kind of silence that only Batman knows. It is the silence of the moment before a decision, the stillness between the breath and the strike. He has lived in that silence for most of his life. It is where he thinks. It is where he wins. Tonight, he sits inside that silence, deep beneath Wayne Manor, surrounded by screens that map the wound in time. He has traced the pattern back to its source. He has followed the shape hidden inside the chaos until it became a name. And now, for the first time, he knows where to find the man who is unmaking the world. He does not call for backup. He does not summon the League. He goes alone. The place Kang has chosen for their meeting is not a place in the ordinary sense. It exists between moments, a chamber suspended in the seam where one century folds into the next. Its walls are lined with screens that show every possible version of the world. On one, Gotham burns. On another, it gleams. On a third, it never existed at all. The room hums with the quiet certainty of a man who has already seen the ending. Kang stands at the center, waiting. He does not turn when Batman enters. He does not need to. He has already watched this meeting unfold 1,000 times in the models running behind his eyes. He knows the angle of Batman's step. He knows the length of his shadow. He knows the exact second Batman will speak. But Batman does not speak. He watches. He listens. He learns. Kang smiles faintly. It is not a smile of arrogance. It is the smile of a chess master who recognizes another player at the board. He begins by explaining calmly that every strategy Batman is currently considering has already been calculated. He lists them: the tactical retreat, the distraction, the false surrender, the hidden device in the left gauntlet, the contingency involving the Flash. the deeper contingency involving Martian Manhunter. Each one dismissed with the patience of a man reading a familiar book aloud. Batman does not flinch. He simply files each revelation away. Kang is not bluffing. He truly has seen these plans. Which means the game cannot be won by planning. It must be won by choosing. Batman speaks for the first time. His voice is low, steady, almost quiet. He tells Kang that prediction is not the same as understanding. A man can know every possible move on a board and still lose to a player who refuses to play the game as expected. Kang has studied history. Batman has studied people. And people, Batman says, are not equations. They are storms wearing skin. Kang tilts his head. This interests him. He counters with a philosophy sharpened by centuries of rule. History, he says, is not made by choice. It is made by pressure. The right pressure applied at the right moment produces the right outcome. Free will is simply the illusion people cling to while forces far larger than themselves shape their lives. Kings believe they choose to rule. Heroes believe they choose to rise. But behind every crown and every cape stands a chain of causes stretching back to the first spark of existence. Control the causes, he says, and you control the choices. Batman listens. Then he answers. He tells Kang about a boy in an alley. A boy who watched his parents fall and made a choice that no equation predicted. A choice to become something impossible. A choice that was not written by pressure or by history, but by a single defiant human will. He tells Kang that every hero in the league carries a moment like that. A moment where the equation broke. A moment where a person chose to be more than the sum of their causes. Kang does not laugh. He considers. For a long time, the two men stand in silence, surrounded by the flickering ghosts of every possible world. Two intellects, each convinced of a different truth. One believes the future is a machine to be controlled. The other believes the future is a promise to be kept. Neither convinces the other. But something quiet passes between them. A recognition. The kind of recognition that only exists between people who understand exactly how dangerous the other is. Kang finally speaks. He tells Batman that he has met many opponents across many centuries. Titans. Very few have earned his attention. Fewer still have earned his respect. Batman says nothing. He does not need to. When he leaves the chamber, he leaves without a victory. But he also leaves without a defeat. And in a war fought across time itself, sometimes the most important battle is the one where you simply refuse to lose. The rules of reality begin to break in ways that even the Justice League cannot contain. It is no longer a matter of rewritten memories or vanished landmarks. Entire futures are bleeding into the present, and the present is bleeding back into futures that were never meant to exist. Above Metropolis, the sky splits open, and for a moment two skylines occupy the same air. One is the city the world knows. The other is a version of Metropolis crowned by black towers, its streets patrolled by soldiers wearing Kang's sigil. The vision lasts only seconds before it collapses, but the people who saw it will never forget. In Gotham, a rainstorm falls upward. In Central City, a clock tower chimes 13 times, and every citizen who hears it remembers, briefly, a life they never lived. Cosmic beings gather at the edges of existence, and even they are shaken. The specter stands in silence, watching threads of judgment unravel. The phantom stranger admits for perhaps the first time that he does not know what comes next. The lords of order and chaos, ancient rivals, sit at the same table because the war they have always fought is now smaller than the war unfolding around them. Then the visitors begin to arrive. Future versions of heroes step through the fractures, each carrying a warning shaped by a world that has already fallen. A Superman with gray in his hair and grief in his eyes tells the League of a timeline where Kang won without ever firing a shot. A Wonder Woman clad in mourning armor speaks of an Earth where free will became a memory whispered in secret. A Flash arrives in fragments, his form flickering, his message incomplete, because the timeline he came from is already forgetting him. Some futures are worse, some are stranger. In one, Kang rules from a throne carved out of the bones of dead universes. In another, the Justice League never existed at all, and Earth is a quiet, obedient jewel in a much larger crown. In yet another, the heroes did exist, but they chose Kang's order over their own freedom, and the world they built is peaceful, prosperous, and utterly hollow. The League watches these futures unfold like pages torn from books they have not yet written. And for the first time, they understand the true nature of the enemy they face. Kang is not trying to destroy them. He is trying to select them. He speaks at last not through armies or ambassadors, but through the fabric of reality itself. His voice reaches every hero, every villain, every mortal on earth. It is calm. It is patient. It is almost kind. He tells them he has watched their world for longer than they can imagine. He has seen its wars, its famines, its betrayals, its small, private cruelties. He has seen the way hope rises and falls, the way heroes bleed for a peace that never lasts. He does not hate them. He does not even blame them. He simply believes they deserve better than the chaos they have inherited. He is not searching for conquest. He is searching for the one timeline capable of producing absolute order. A world where suffering is not endured but eliminated. A world where every variable has been solved. A world where humanity is finally free of its own uncertainty. To achieve that world, every other must be pruned away. Free will, he explains, is not a gift. It is a wound. It is the reason children starve while empires feast. It is the reason heroes die while tyrants sleep. It is the reason a universe capable of wonder is so often drowning in grief. Remove the wound, he says, and the wound stops bleeding. The League listens, and the terrifying thing is not that his words are monstrous. The terrifying thing is that a small, quiet part of every listener understands them. Superman lowers his gaze. Wonder Woman tightens her grip on her sword. Batman does not move at all, because they all know, in that moment, that the war ahead will not be won by strength. It will be won by the answer to a single question. Is a perfect future worth the price of every future that could have been? If Kang has turned time into a battlefield, then the Justice League will bring an army the likes of which time has never seen. Batman gives the order in a voice that carries no doubt. Reach across every era. Wake every ally. Call every debt. If Kang has made history his weapon, then history will answer back. The Flash opens the Speed Force like a door held open for guests. Dr. Fate raises the helmet and speaks in the tongue of ages. Rip Hunter charts routes through centuries most historians have forgotten. And one by one, the reinforcements begin to arrive. Heroes of the past step forward first. Warriors from the Themyscira before it had a name. Knights who once rode beside a young Arthur, their armor still bright with belief. Frontier gunslingers who fought monsters no history book records. Explorers, revolutionaries, scholars, and saints, each one plucked from a moment where their courage mattered. Then come the heroes of the future. Legionnaires from 1,000 years ahead, their uniforms marked by stars that have not yet been born. Warriors from the end of time itself, veterans of wars fought against entropy. Descendants of the current League carrying the weight of names they inherited and the pride of names they earned. And then quietly, unexpectedly come the others. The former enemies, the reformed villains, the reluctant allies who have every reason to walk away and choose instead to stand. Lex Luthor arrives without ceremony, his expression unreadable, his intellect offered like a blade laid on a table. Sinestro appears with a small, tight nod because even a tyrant recognizes a greater one. Deathstroke offers no explanation, only a weapon and a willingness to use it. Because they have all seen the futures. They have all understood the truth. In Kang's world there are no rivals. There are no schemes. There are no games. There is only the single ruler and the single road he permits. Even villains need a world worth conquering, and Kang would leave them nothing but a garden of statues. The battles begin across centuries at once. In the age of dinosaurs, a legion of temporal soldiers pours out of a hidden citadel, only to be met by a coalition of heroes wielding weapons from 1,000 different eras. In medieval Europe, knights and metahumans stand shoulder to shoulder against war machines from the far future. In a Victorian London draped in fog, detectives, sorcerers, and vigilantes fight beneath gaslit skies. In a distant future where the sun has grown cold, the Legion holds a fortress against waves of Kang's forces, buying seconds that ripple back through every earlier battle. The Flash runs through it all, a lightning bolt threading centuries together, carrying messages, reinforcements, and hope. Superman moves like a comet between eras, arriving wherever the line begins to break. Wonder Woman leads the charge in the ancient world, her voice a rallying cry that echoes across ages. And Batman, quiet as ever, works in the shadows behind the shadows. He gathers Mr. Terrific, the Atom, Dr. Fate, and every mind capable of grasping the shape of the enemy's strategy. Together they build something that has never been attempted. Not a weapon, not a fortress, a choice engine. A vast, impossible framework designed to do the one thing Kang cannot easily counter: generate unpredictability at scale. Kang's power rests on prediction. He wins because he knows. He rules because he has already seen. Batman's plan is not to outfight him. It is to overwhelm him. To flood the timeline with so many free, unforced human decisions that even Kang's endless calculations begin to stutter. Every soldier on every battlefield is asked to choose. Not to follow orders, not to obey a plan. To choose, to improvise, to act in the moment, guided by conscience rather than command. Every hero, every villain, every ordinary human caught in the storm is invited to become a variable Kang cannot solve. The Justice League is not just fighting a conqueror. They are betting the fate of existence on the one thing Kang has always dismissed: the stubborn, unpredictable, irrational, beautiful capacity of a living mind to say, in the face of every equation, I choose otherwise. Somewhere, in the Citadel outside of time, Kang watches his models begin to tremble. For the first time in centuries, the future is no longer clear. And Batman, deep in the heart of the storm, allows himself the smallest, sharpest smile. Batman finds him at the end of everything. Kang's Citadel does not sit on any world. It hangs in the space between moments, a fortress of black glass and quiet light, anchored to no century in every century at once. To reach it, Batman crosses corridors of collapsing history, stepping over fragments of futures that never took root, past echoes of himself who chose different paths and paid different prices. He arrives alone. He always does. Inside, the Citadel opens into a vast chamber that seems to breathe. Its walls are alive with images. Every reality Kang has ever studied plays across them like candlelight. In one, a plague sweeps through a city that no medicine reaches in time. In another, a child grows up beneath a warlord's boot. In another, a hero fails and a world burns. In another, a hero succeeds and a different world burns instead. Grief upon grief, loss upon loss, the full weight of every history laid bare. Kang stands at the center, hands clasped behind his back, watching the images with the tired eyes of a man who has seen too much to look away. He speaks without turning. He tells Batman that he did not begin as a conqueror. He began as a student. He wanted to understand why so many worlds suffered so needlessly. He wanted to know why intelligent beings, given every chance to build paradise, so often built pyres instead. He studied timelines the way physicians study wounds, and slowly, over centuries, he came to a conclusion he could not unlearn. Every tragedy could be prevented. Every war could be avoided. Every crisis could be answered before it began. If only one mind, one will, one ruler stood above the chaos and made the necessary choices, not out of cruelty, out of mercy. Out of the exhausted, aching love of a man who has seen too many children buried and refuses to see another. He turns at last to face Batman. He asks a single question. If you could end all suffering at the cost of only one thing, freedom, would you not at least consider it? Batman does not answer quickly. He looks at the images on the walls. He sees the plagues, the buried children. He does not dismiss them. He does not pretend they do not matter. He has spent his life inside that grief. He knows its shape better than most. Then he speaks. He tells Kang that a future without choice is not a future. It is a museum, a place where nothing new can ever happen because nothing new is permitted. He tells Kang that suffering is not the price of freedom. Suffering is the price of a world that has not yet learned better. And a world can only learn if it is allowed to try, to fail, to try again. Take away the trying, he says, and you do not save the world. You only embalm it. He tells Kang that hope is not the absence of pain. Hope is what people build inside the pain. It is the small, stubborn light that a controlled future would extinguish long before it had a chance to grow. Kang listens. He does not argue. He simply raises his hand. The Citadel begins to move. Around them, history itself starts to collapse. The images on the walls twist, blur, and break. Timelines fold inward. Alarms sound across every era where the battle still rages as Kang begins to draw the remaining futures into the Citadel, ready to compress them into the single reality he has chosen. Batman does not run. He moves with the calm, terrible focus of a man who has waited his entire life for exactly this moment. He moves through the collapsing chamber, past falling shards of possibility, toward the great engine at the Citadel's heart. The anchor. The core. The mechanism through which Kang has bound every timeline to his will. Above them, heroes fight across dying centuries. Below them, Kang watches with something almost like sorrow. And Batman, in the eye of the storm, reaches for the machine that would decide once and for all whether tomorrow belongs to one man or to everyone. The machine breaks with a sound like a held breath finally released. For a long moment, nothing seems to change. Then everything does. The Citadel shudders. The walls of glass and quiet light begin to dim. The images of endless timelines flicker one last time and go still, no longer bound to any single ruler's design. Kang's empire, built across 10,000 years and countless realities, begins to come undone from the inside. Across the centuries, the battle's quiet. Soldiers of the far future lower their weapons as the ground beneath them steadies. Knights on medieval hills watch war machines dissolve into motes of light. In prehistoric skies, the fortresses buried in ice sink back into the earth as though they had never been. The wound in time is closing, slowly, gently, the way skin closes over an old scar. Heroes return to their proper histories. The future warriors fade first, carried back by tides only they can feel. The past heroes step through doorways of light, back into the ages that need them. The Legion salutes across 1,000 years. Ancient warriors bow to modern ones. Old enemies nod to old rivals and then are gone. Entire civilizations vanish as reality restores itself. Cities that only existed because Kang bent history around them dissolve like morning mist. It should feel like loss. Instead, it feels like a room being tidied after a long, difficult night. What remains is what was always meant to be. In the collapsing Citadel, Batman and Kang stand across from each other one last time. Kang is not angry. He is not defeated in the way lesser tyrants are defeated. He is something quieter. He is a man who has watched his life's work unmade and who, perhaps for the first time in a very long time, is not certain what comes next. He looks at Batman with an expression that is almost respectful. He tells him that humanity's greatest strength is also its greatest weakness. Its future can never be predicted. No matter how many models are built, no matter how many centuries are studied, there will always be a boy in an alley, a woman on a bridge, a stranger in a crowd, who chooses something no equation foresaw. That, he says, is why humanity cannot be ruled cleanly. And that, he admits, is why it cannot be entirely conquered. Batman answers with only a few words. He tells Kang that uncertainty is not a flaw. It is the space where hope lives. A predicted future has no room for grace. An unwritten one has room for everything. Kang considers this. He does not agree, but he does not disagree either. He steps back into the last shadow of his citadel, and the shadow closes around him. He is not destroyed. Men like Kang are rarely destroyed. He is simply gone, carried into whatever seam of time still remains open to him, taking his ambitions with him into the dark. The citadel fades. The last temporal echoes dim, and the Justice League, scattered across a healing timeline, slowly finds its way home. They gather again in the watchtower, quieter than before. They do not celebrate. They do not boast. They stand together and look out at the earth turning below, an earth that is once again allowed to be uncertain. Superman speaks of the future as something to be earned. Wonder Woman speaks of freedom as something to be defended. The Flash speaks briefly of how strange it is to run forward and not know exactly what lies ahead. Batman says nothing. He simply watches the horizon. Somewhere beyond time, Kang watches too. Undiminished, studying new histories, measuring new futures, searching as he always searches for another tomorrow worth conquering. And tomorrow, unwritten and uncertain, waits for whoever chooses to shape it first.